Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of Machine Heads Interviews here on the Compact Equipment YouTube channel and compactequip.com. Today we've got a really good one for you. We're going to be talking mini skid steers, continuing our series of conversations on mini skid steers. Today we've got Jerry Corder, who is a product manager for construction equipment at Kubota, who has made a lot of noise in this category of machines since launching the SCL-1000 in 2020 during ConExpo. That machine, you could really kind of point to it for kind of reinvigorating this category of machine. Toro, of course, created this category 30, almost 40 years ago. But since then, Kubota has definitely breathed new life into it, because now, since the release of the SCL-1000, you've got several new competitors in the space between Wacker Neuson and Case and a few others. So we're going to talk with Jerry just a little bit about the SCL-1000, kind of the response to that machine, how it's kind of reshaped the industry around this 1,000 pounds of rated operating capacity. And so let's go ahead, and without further ado, we'll get into this conversation with Jerry Corder of Kubota. So Jerry, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but I kind of give you guys credit in a lot of ways for reigniting a lot of the interest around this segment. This is a long-established segment for at least 2 or 3 decades, almost 3 decades, with Vermeer and Toro and Ditch Witch kind of slugging it out, and randomly, a few other players kind of popping in. But when you guys made the decision to release that SCL-1000 back in 2020, I believe it was, right before the world fell apart, it generated a lot of interest at that ConExpo. And I really think since then, this segment really has, for me anyway, that's the touchstone, is that ever since then, I feel like this segment has been on fire. And so let's start off with kind of just discussing the segment itself for mini skid steers. I mean, like I said, it grew from a couple of brands to now you guys are in there, and several other kind of competing brands. I feel like every ConExpo now we're good for at least a new brand kind of entering the fray, and using some of their expertise. And it makes sense, right? There's been a certain trickle down, I feel like, as the compact track loader overtook the skid steer, and people saw kind of like all the extra utility and kind of capability you get with the tracks, and then upping the hydraulic power and coming up with all these new tools and everything like that. And it's like, oh man, like what if we could fit one of these into like even smaller places to use all these awesome tools? But obviously a lot of interest, really hot segment. What is it in particular that you attribute kind of like that growth to? And maybe what were some of the reasons that, a few years ago Kubota decided, this is the time to kind of get involved in this segment?
Sure. Well, backing up to your point, not too long ago, the mini skid was a specialized piece of equipment for landscapers, primarily. Since then, it has made its way into the fleets of pretty much everybody who needs to get a bucket or an attachment into a small, tight space. And that's really where it's come into its own. On the construction side, with houses getting closer and closer together, it's just not practical to get a track loader in between houses anymore. So this really works well in that range. Also, you see them in farms and ranches. You see them in orchards, nurseries, and the like. Everybody who needs that tight area with the ability to move dirt or use an attachment, they're glomming onto it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so and I do think that, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but there is a balance to be struck, right, between the feature set and the size. And we saw for years kind of like they were getting bigger and bigger, kind of like compact track loaders themselves. And then I feel like there was a little bit of a reset around that 1,000 pound kind of lift capacity and its ability to kind of be balanced along with other things like, overall machine width and ground pressure. From your standpoint, what are the key design aspects or features that the modern version of this segment has got to deliver?
Well, again, as you said, we'll get to this in a minute. That 1,000 pound area is the perfect mix between frame size and lift capacity. If you need to get a load somewhere, that seems to do it. In any business, time is money. So the more you can do at any given time, minimizes the number of times you have to go back and forth, and that just affects everybody's bottom line. So, it's
Yeah.
that mix of size and capacity that seems to really hit the sweet spot.
Do you feel like those things have kind of changed over the last few years? Have you seen? Because like it felt like it was they were kind of trending larger and larger, or just trying to cover more of the size spectrum. And I really feel like now, like most of the new machines that you see are really trying to hit that like more of the balance rather than prioritizing one or the other. I mean, how would you kind of phrase that?
No, you're spot on. I've seen much smaller machines and I've seen much larger machines, but when you look at the market data in general, uh, the 1,000 pound is dominating that segment. So
Um,
people may still continue to go bigger and smaller, but that
yeah.
and there are uses for them, but I won't get
It
into that.
seems like yeah, just about all of the new machines are around that 1,000 pound lift capacity. From you guys' perspective, is that a function of just like the type of work that it's being used for? That anything over 1,000 is usually overkill for these machines in terms of where
Not
they're real.
necessarily. I
Okay.
think for sure it's a matter of what it's being used for. But as you get bigger, your frame has to get bigger. You have to get wider. So to keep it narrow and to give it enough lift capacity, this is it. This is that 1,000 pound where it's what people need and what they're buying.
You mentioned residential being like a huge driver to all of this, and I think obviously residential and rental are huge drivers for the overall kind of like growth and compact in general. And really, I you know I feel like the machine that most typically represents compact is definitely the CTL, and this is kind of like a even more versatile sized type of CTL. But what types of jobs are you guys typically seeing your customers do with this machine type? It's tracked. It's got the implements that are available for it. It's got a lot of the capability of a CTL that can lift 1,000 pounds. So
Mhm.
I'd imagine they're using it a lot like a CTL, which means that there's a lot you can accomplish with it. So like, what are you guys seeing?
Absolutely. And bucket work is the majority of the work that gets done. With a machine this small, you can get in, you can shuffle material around a job site and place it with precision, which is really advantageous in construction. Overall, it's a landscaper's dream, even still, and I think that's where a lot of the use still comes from, is on the landscaping, hardscaping, residential construction side, where ground pressure is important. You need to come in and not disturb turf or landscaping and such. Get your job done in a narrow area, turn around, get out, and come in with the next load or what have you. Put pallet forks on these things, and you can bring in sod, you can bring in mulch, you can bring in stone. Slap on a power rake, and you can clean and level an area and get ready for prep. Put an auger on, and you're drilling for pilings, for fencing. It's just fits into that residential and landscaping niche very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think too another aspect of this that I wanted to talk about with you is they're just very approachable machines. I mean, like, they're extremely easy to operate. They're a lot less intimidating. I imagine that really kind of opens it up too. So, like, any landscaper that's wanting to get into hardscaping
Mhm.
or do more of the kind of heavier, duty types of the land work, it's a lot less intimidating to think that, oh, okay, well. And I think there's something to that, the fact that you can just hop on and hop off. I think the controls are really friendly. It doesn't feel like you're going to, when you stand on one of these machines, it feels obviously a lot like a lawnmower or something like that, where you don't feel like you're gonna like mess something up. It inspires a lot of confidence. How is that kind of translated to getting more customers acquainted with the Kubota brand, and maybe even like more interest in like, has that SCL 1000 been a gateway machine for you guys in terms of the business it generates?
Um, I don't think it's been a gateway so much as, well, let me back up a second. You mentioned how approachable it is, and the learning curve to use one of these versus a track loader. These are simple.
Hmm.
That said, there are some very important considerations in that these are narrow, and it's not hard to tip one over if you really want to. So the means in which you operate it, keep your your loads low to the ground, avoid heavy, steep slopes and such. If you can approach it from how can we do this as safely as possible, they're very easy to use and very functional as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now on the business side of things, I mean, like, have
Yeah.
you guys seen that kind of like lead to more business or more kind of like rental attention or anything else like that? Or
What I've seen more than anything else is we designed this, and our Kubota customers, the Kubota mantra, whatever, would be, simple, rugged, reliable. And Kubota customers are already looking for those features, and this just hits it out of the park with those people who are used to those Kubota criteria.
oh yeah, and they know it's going to last a long time for sure. Moving on to kind of like specifics about the SCL, it's been a few years now since the SCL-1000 has come out. Like I said earlier, you could really point at the release of that machine, if timing is just coincidence or whatever. But you can kind of really kind of touch on that and say, really at this point, the market kind of like everybody kind of got interested around it. What is it about the SCL? Kind of forgetting the surrounding market, but what is it about the SCL-1000 that resonated with customers whenever it was announced at ConExpo and continues to resonate today? What is it that they love about this machine?
Well, the SCL 1000 has a couple things going for it. It is 36 inches wide with a bucket. You can get that machine through any gate, into any yard or where you would need to go. It's a turbocharged engine. So if you're operating in Denver or at high altitude, you're not sacrificing horsepower. You keep all of the performance that you would need. It's also a wide track. This has 36 inches wide with a 9.8 inch track. So ground pressure extremely low. And as we mentioned before, how important it is to keep turf and such from getting torn up as you operate. From a hydraulics operation standpoint, you get 15 gallons per minute of flow, and you can operate it all off of the lift control. All the hydraulics are operated off of that. You don't need three hands to move the machine and work the hydraulics at the same time. And it comes standard with a K-strain, which a lot of people really like. So I mean, I can keep going if you want on the specification for the machine. Those are really
please do.
point.
Yeah.
So it's a vertical lift machine, so it'll lift 7 pounds. 7 pounds, excuse me. It'll lift 7 feet up, and you can dump into a trailer, versus a radial lift machine, which is more advantageous for forks and stuff where your maximum reach is in front of you at mid height. It comes with a wide array of those Kubota performance match attachments. It's just an operator's dream to get done whatever you need to. We use the word tool carrier a lot with a track loader, and this fits that name perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and when this machine was released, I feel like I had not seen a machine yet that, because whenever I was trying to kind of decode a lot of like the interest in the machine, and I talked to a couple of people at ConExpo and everything like that. And so I kind of took those kind of core features, and then I went back and was like looking at kind of like the competition, and I really felt like at that point you guys were really the only ones striking that balance that we were talking about, that capable 1,000 pounds of lift, but that low ground pressure, that width, and specifically that width. One of the hardest things in engineering these machines is nailing that the minimum width, whatever you're trying to do, squeeze into that back gate, while also not putting too much pressure on the ground. And so usually that means that you've got to expand the tracks in some kind of way. You got to get a little wider to put less pressure on the ground. And you guys really kind of nailed that from the beginning. And it felt like that was kind of like a blueprint. And when everybody saw that, it kind of unlocked like oh, okay, I got it. So there's been a lot of segment entries from competitors since then, trying to do really that same thing, nail the 1,000 pound machine. So looking at this segment now, like how do you guys feel about how the SCL 1000 stands up today, even like 3-4 years later, with all this new competition, and what do you think makes it remain the best choice for customers out there?
So there are other machines in that 36-inch class, but none of the rest of them in that class have a track as wide as ours. In fact, most of them, it's considerably smaller. So that is our, claim to fame, bread and butter, whatever you want to call it, that really hits stride in this machine is ground pressure. We can get over and do the work we need to without disturbing, sensitive areas.
What makes it so difficult getting that? I mean, a certain part of this is physics, right? Where, what makes it so hard getting that wide track into that narrow frame? Because I feel like at a certain point, the tracks get closer and closer together as you're trying to kind of get them into this space. But I feel like that's the engineering challenge. And why do you think you guys were able to nail that so early on?
I really don't have a great answer for that, but not being an engineer, but certainly whomever put it together from the start, that was their intent, to get wide tracks under a narrow machine, and they did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly held to this day, as well as, because I mean that ground pressure number even then was unparalleled, because of that design choice to kind of get those wide tracks onto the narrow feet of the machine. So you guys definitely did something right there.
And some of our
kind
competitors, you can get a wider track, but naturally it pushes the width of the machine out. So.
How important is that? I mean, I know it's important, but obviously it just is it as simple as, in terms of overall machine width, is it as simple as just giving you the peace of mind that there's not a backyard I can't get this thing into? I mean, how would you rank that among like the ground pressure and the lifting? Is that number one in terms of the priorities of most of the customers you're seeing?
I believe that's an accurate statement. It's a combination of width, capacity, ground pressure, and I don't want to minimize the importance of that turbocharged engine. That really helps out some of the people operating in some higher altitude locations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and it's a Kubota. So, I mean, like, that's, at the end of the day, that's going to be a lot of reason for a lot of folks, too. So, well, Jerry, kind of finishing things up here, talking about the SCL and the segment, is there anything else you wanted to add, or any information that you wanted to kind of give interested customers in terms of where to find more info?
Obviously, if you want more information, go to KubotaUSA.com, reach out to your local dealers. We continue to mature in our production capabilities, and so they're out there and ready to grab as you need them.
Awesome. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and we'll hope to do this again soon, man. Thank you again.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this conversation on Machine Heads interviews. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much again to our guests for joining us today for this great conversation on mini skid steers. Look, if you like this video, found it interesting in any kind of way, or if it's helping you make your next buying purchase, do us a favor and hit that like button below. It helps us bring you more content like this. Do us another favor, subscribe to the Compact Equipment YouTube channel here on YouTube, or head over to YouTube if you're watching this on our website. And if you're not on our website, be sure to check out compactequip.com, where you can find a lot more coverage just like this of the compact equipment industry. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.